Anything that goes sufficiently against the culture is considered to be radical. When the culture is morally wrong, this can be a very good thing. I want to give you 3 times when the Bible went completely upstream and wrecked the entrenched cultural thinking. The first radical teaching from the Bible is not to destroy the entire countryside during war. In Deuteronomy 22:19-20, we read, "When you are attacking a town and the war drags on, you must not cut down the trees with your axes. You may eat the fruit, but do not cut down the trees. Are the trees your enemies that you should attack them? You may only cut down trees that you know are not valuable for food. Use them to make the equipment you need to attack the enemy town until it falls." As I looked into this, I found that there were some different translations of this passage, and the precise reasoning for the command is not certain. But, regardless, we understand it well enough to realize that this is a radical teaching. Ancient warfare was brutal. This wasn't just a matter of different teams going to the Super Bowl. Although football fans have been known to get rowdy under such circumstances, it pales in comparison to ancient warfare. If your people lost, your wife may be raped and maybe even taken for another man. Your children could be killed, especially if you were the king, and you could become a slave. The book of 2 Kings chapter 25 tells about a siege against Jerusalem by the Babylonians. By the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine in the city had become so severe that there was no food for the people to eat. Then the city wall was broken through, and the whole army fled at night through the gate between the 2 walls near the king's garden, though the Babylonians were surrounding the city. They fled toward the Arabah, but the Babylonian army pursued the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho. All his soldiers were separated from him and scattered, and he was captured. He was taken to the king of Babylon at Riblah, where sentence was pronounced on him. They killed the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes. Then they put out his eyes, bound him with bronze shackles, and took him to Babylon. The Assyrians were also known for their brutality. They would put a hook through the nose of all the captives and parade them around. The ancient world was not such a great place. You wouldn't have a lot of goodwill to the people who had done this to your friends and family. In fact, decimating the countryside of those people would be a great pleasure. The process would be the punishment. And in this environment, where the stakes are so high and the animosities are so visceral, God comes down and tells the people that they may not tear down all the trees so as to destroy the land. This is so radical, and I don't know if in our modern context we can truly appreciate it. Telling some testosterone-jacked, vengeful warriors that they need to show temperance in dealing with their barbaric foes? It could have sparked a mutiny. And what if their siege had failed? They have to go back with their tails between their legs while those savages gloat? But we have to go easy because God is concerned about trees and monsters. A radical teaching indeed. The second radical teaching is about percentages in giving. For the ancient people, their self-esteem was in their buildings. For one thing, they weren't always looking at their phones, so having beautiful structures was entertainment. But even more, being from a people group with an amazing temple was a source of cultural pride. But big construction costs big money, and the society had developed a whole system for urging donations by exalting big spenders. Jesus talks several times about how people were giving just to be seen and how they would not receive any reward for it. A concrete example of this is the Shofar Chest. Donations in the temple were collected in a special box that was designed to make a lot of noise when coins were dropped into it. The narrow opening for inserting the coins was made of metal and shaped like a trumpet, and that's where it got its name. Shofar in Hebrew means trumpet. So people were literally trumpeting their own good deeds to everyone in the temple when they would donate. I don't know if this is where the phrase, tooting your own horn, comes from, but it should be. In this environment of braggarts, Jesus and his disciples watched a poor widow give 2 small copper coins. This would certainly have not brought her any praise. Her presence may even have been looked down upon, as she would have been a nuisance to the real givers. But she was doing what little she could with what little she had. Jesus explained to his disciples that, actually, she had given more than all the others, because while everyone else had given out of their wealth, she, out of her poverty, put in all she had to live on. This would have been a radical teaching to those who heard it. It's not even clear how much they knew about percentages, and temples aren't going to be built 2 copper coins at a time, right? In a society like that, all about receiving praise, this was completely out of the box. The last radical teaching is about marriage. You see, at the time, the common belief was that a man could divorce his wife for any and every reason, and that this was completely moral. They even talked about how you could divorce over something as trivial as burning the food, or even finding a new woman who he liked the looks of better. And I need to stress that this was what the religious authorities were teaching as the moral thing to do. That was the official teaching of the religious school of Hillel. The religious school of Shammai did dispute this, saying that a man could divorce his wife only if there was some sexual impropriety. An improvement to be sure, but what could be counted as sexual impropriety? So Jesus steps into the middle of this cultural debate and drops a hand grenade into their punch bowl. He says that men should not be divorcing their wives for these frivolous reasons. And while he does not prohibit divorce, he shows that it is a very serious thing. While they were all looking for excuses and trying to streamline the process, Jesus went to the heart of the matter, showing that this was about more than their rules and loopholes. There you go, 3 radical teachings from the Bible. I hope you liked them.